a later morning today. I've been just working on some other stuff. It's probably around 10 a.m. I've been up for a couple hours. I was working on some more of those papers that I showed yesterday. I took all the handles and I made them into like strips so I can literally make like comic strips. Just to keep myself working on it pretty consistently. Not about making good ones. In fact, I'm trying to do just like Sharpie drawings so that I can just keep cranking them out and not worry about them being good. Because like I'm really just getting back in that habit of storytelling, right? Like it's something you have to remember how to do. I'm thinking for that project, so there's different sizes of paper that came out from, the way that I cut all the bags. So I have those shorter strips, and then I have these little pieces that are the bottoms of the bag, and then I have medium-sized pieces that were from me trying to decide if I wanted to cut the papers in a different way. And then I have the full larger piece. So what I'm thinking with this right now is I'm thinking about doing three different things. Or, yeah, I guess largely three different things. So, one, the really, really short comic strips, and have, just be doing like, whenever I have an idea, I'll just draw them on there. Or try to get myself to do one like every day. And then for the larger pieces, there's these like, they're actually smaller. They're like this size. So I have like a bunch of these from the bottom of the bags. So I'm thinking about doing a concept, and this is I don't think I'll pull it off well, but it's a concept where I make each of these into frames of a story, but because of them being independent little pieces, the frames can be rearranged to tell different stories, or to tell the same story with a different ending, or to change the perspective of the narrative or something. That's the concept. That's a really hard one. I don't know if I'll be able to pull that off, but that's the idea. And then I had another idea for like the larger sheets, have those be like each of the pieces being a full like story, so the short strips being independent short 5 panel, 6 panel stories. And then those independent little pieces, that being a whole, all of those sheets going together to make a story. And then the large sheets and the smaller ones, that are just like pieces of the larger sheets, being themselves a full story on one piece. So it's a lot. It's a lot of ideas there, but I'm thinking focusing on those strips first, while I'm thinking through that concept of the panel one, and then also thinking through longer storylines for those full sheets without having the commitment of like I'm making an actual book. So that's the idea, just to kind of break my own rut and get started making something, anything, even if it sucks. So last night I forgot to vlog anything because I ended up getting home around like midnight. It was late. I was hanging out so I went to my friend's house for dinner, and then after that me and a bunch of people from like the Rad House. It's like people from my church, and a bunch of those friends went and hung out at their house. We watched 8-Bit Christmas, I think is what it's called. It was a cute movie. That was a really cute movie. And some of the stuff they did with the filming on that was like surprisingly fantastic. Like really, really good stuff. But yeah, that's the overall like that's how yesterday went. It was really fun, really chill. Just hanging with people, talking a little bit more about the stuff with my mom, just like that emotional support of having good friends was really helpful. Yeah, honestly, for the most part, I needed to not like talk about it as much anymore, and I really need to be focused on my own life and focus on creating things. Fortunately, I do have the capacity to do that, and I have the freedom to do that. Unfortunately, I will be anticipating a letter for myself in the next week or two. I'm expecting. That can go in a lot of different ways. I really hope she just keeps it very light. I was hoping, when I asked her to write me letters, I was hoping it would be more of just like, this is what's been going on, here's the book I'm reading, like light stuff. But I'm worried I've opened a door and I've made myself vulnerable to something that is not good. And honestly, if it looks that way, I'm not reading it. I'm not. I might have my friend. Honestly, those kind of things don't deserve reading by anyone, and there's no point in opening that door because there's nothing but evil that is behind it. Um, I had some thoughts that I was thinking about. So I was watching. This is so bad. Like, I mean, it was really helpful, but watching like a breakdown of how, from a like creative perspective, from like a business perspective, how Gabby Hanna kind of completely decimated her career and completely or like made herself a failure in that sense. Um, so I wanted to confess something too. A similar time period to when I was super into true crime, I was also getting really into some T channels, and I have been for a while. Like, I think it just marks some of where my mental health was at that time. That I didn't. I was so invested in other people's lives and so invested in other people's problems that I wasn't as aware of like working through my own stuff, and I just wasn't ready to work on it. It was just a really bad time in my life when I was watching like all the drama, all the T channels. And I think part of it was in a sense like trying to I was becoming highly critical of people. And it was also from the sense that I wasn't pursuing my own dreams. And so it was easier for me to be critical of other people in failing in the way that they're pursuing theirs. And being highly critical of them and learning how to critique and all that stuff, I wasn't thinking for myself either very much. I was just very, say, passive, looking for other people's interpretations of information rather than reaching my own conclusions. And I think that's something I've grown a lot in. Reading newspapers helped me a lot with that. I also really miss having my newspaper. I had suspended the subscription for like the week or whatever when I'd be home, and I came back early, and I'm really bummed it's not here yet. But anyway, learning to think for yourself, and I'm choosing to say learning very intentionally because it's not something you're born knowing how to do, and I think there's constantly this pressure not to think for yourself. It's something you have to really work on. It's a lot more work than watching drama channels and just sipping that tea, just spilling it, sipping it, whatever. Um, and I really regret that time of my life. It wasn't healthy. And it was, in a sense, almost like, I won't say the same, but like, you have to be careful about what you're consuming because it just leads you down paths that you don't want to go. And it can really set you up for a failure in even recognizing that you don't want to go down them. There's this sense, I think, for people where we want to be like, oh, I can read whatever I want. I can watch whatever I want. I won't be bothered by that. Don't, that's just pride. Like, everybody's impacted by the stuff they're consuming. And I think in some senses, I wanted to be able to arm myself against doing anything like that in my own life, or arm myself against, all right, if that happens, what would I do? And wow, I'm around some really screwed up people right now, or like, wow, this person's acting that way. That doesn't solve your problems. You can't watch other people processing their problems. You have to learn how to face your own battles. And I think it was from a place of fear and not wanting to stand up for myself, or not recognizing that I could, where I was just obsessively watching other people have the confrontations that I was too afraid to have, basically. Like, and I was convincing myself that having confrontations with people is making drama and it's not worth doing. And look at how bad these people are for having drama with other people. All the while becoming so passive, but also hating that I was in these situations where I was, allowing myself to be used by people, or using people. And if they spoke out, it was the same kind of thing. I'm like, oh, you're seeking drama, you're the problem. Like, people joke about like being the too toxic, like chill girl. Yeah. Yep. I was hardcore. But anyway, I feel like it makes sense that I was watching those channels that are making so much drama for the same reason that when I was starving, like when I was in my eating disorder, I was watching so many people like having mukbangs and eating food. It's like psychologically trying to satiate a need to confront my own reality and trying to, satisfy these desires that I had without actually satisfying them or actually having to face reality. To me, they're the similar kind of thing. And I know I'm speaking about my experience, I'm not speaking about everyone's experience. For me, it was the same to watch those channels as it was for me to watch people eating tons of food when I wasn't allowing myself to. It's like I want to watch other people have confrontations. I watch other people go through that. And if you look to people that are very bad examples and very poorly handling things, you're going to inevitably just take on those aspects. Or if nothing else, you're allowing them to hold up space in your mind that should be occupied with your own interests, like movies and TV shows and music and, art in all forms that, you know, are made to be entertainment and consumption, whereas other people's issues and other people's drama and other people's beef, that's like, it does something to you. It does something to you in a way that takes a long time to recognize. And I think it was probably one of the better things for my own mental health that I left that aspect of YouTube and started intentionally watching things that were good for me and better for me and making myself at peace. I was seeking my own peace, and peace often comes after conflict. And you can't find false peace in false conflict. And you're making your own chaos by trying to avoid conflict. So, true peace and someone who's a true peacemaker, you have to be the courageous person, not only to confront those bad situations, but to forgive when there's no you have to radically accept those terrible people being unhealthy. Obviously, if there's things that you can say, you should say them, but at the end of the day, you can't fix anyone else, you can't change anyone else. And people who are unhealthy will continue to be that way until they come to a realization on their own or from some kind of revelation that someone's able to break through to them. And I've had so many people do that for me, and I'm so thankful. It is probably 9-ish. I just want to not be sick anymore. That would be great. It's like I have like a head cold. But then part of me is like, you're sick because you haven't gone out and done anything. But then I'm like, I haven't gone out and done anything because I'm sick. And I'm trying to focus on getting better. But it's like, you can't get better overnight. Especially if what you're sick with is as much mental as it is physical. That's a weird way to say it. But like, these things that are impacting us emotionally, spiritually, whatever, do have an impact physically. Like, I don't think you can fully argue that stress doesn't make you sick. I don't think you can straight up say that. Everyone knows the correlation between your mental well-being and your physical health. I just want to be in a place where I don't have to feel this way all the time. And I'm excited for that. But in the meantime, I just have to have faith that it'll come eventually. And I'm really glad that I'm here in my apartment to get over this sickness instead of being anywhere else. It's hard sometimes, I think, to let myself rest, though, without it feeling really weird. Like, time goes weird when I'm here by myself too much. Anyway, I don't really have anything exciting to share. I spent pretty much the whole day reading that graphic women book. Yeesh, that stuff is heavy. There's so much, interesting content, and literature analysis that, like, learning how to talk about this stuff is really difficult. It's a lot to process in one go. Fortunately, that's the kind of stuff I enjoy, but at the same time, it's really been a lot. It's been a lot of reading. Lots of art making too. I have gone through some of these sheets. I decided to go ahead and just start drawing on them instead of putting on some kind of pressure to make it perfect. I drew a little rubbish self-portrait. Wow. You know how when you flip it, like, never mind. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not doing digital art. This is physical. But yeah, it's me in what I'm wearing right now. Kind of. It's a kind of rubbish drawing, but that's kind of the point. And that's kind of the point of using this kind of paper too. This is where, like, when it comes to the medium, really is the message, you know? The medium really does create inspiration to continue to work on it, continue to make things. I never really fully appreciated the power of a medium until this project. Me using these scrap papers is like this new form of self-expression that is less refined inherently, but it takes off the pressure to make something that looks good or even decent. It's for me and no one else, and it's already on trash, so it doesn't really matter what happens to it afterwards. It feels like my life's work though, so I'm like afraid of having anything happen to it at the same time. But yeah, that is like, I also did a line of a bigger project on one of those, like, the bigger sheets that I have. I was gonna try and reach for it and then I just didn't. It's downstairs on my, like, dining room table, and it's pretty sick. Pretty sick. I'm happy with it. It feels genuine. It feels authentic. It feels very weird having other people read it. One of my roommates read it, and I was just like, maybe don't read it yet. I don't know. It's just like one of those things that I have to start getting used to. I mean, I'm literally putting myself on the internet right now, so I just have to start getting used to people seeing these sides of me. I just, freaking. There are things I'm not going to share with people in general. I made a comic today that is just for me, that is a little bit extra spicy, and if eventually when I'm dead it comes out, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. It's just, a little bit more honest and a little bit more brutal than I would put out. So I need to work on being more honest, though. I think that's part of why I often fail with artistic pursuits and designs, is when I'm not daring enough, when I'm not making a statement, even if it's wrong. That's honestly what art comes down to a lot of the time, is just saying something with confidence. Anything. Say something and make it your statement, even if it's something you disagree with in a few weeks. Like, just say something. And that's part of why, design is honestly huge with that too. Like, you just have to go and do something. It's where egos are dangerous and, pride is rampant when people just start doing things that are careless and selfish. But at the same time, you can't create without that level of confidence to some degree. Or at least you'll reach that confidence by the time you're done with the project. At least I hope so. At least I hope so. I don't really have too much to say about that book so far, except my head hurts from reading it all day, because it is heavy, difficult content that is it's very demanding on a certain part of my brain, and it's kind of exhausting. It's inspiring, but it's exhausting. So I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. Just gonna have a really chill evening, gonna do some, I don't know, reading my Bible, that kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that helps me relax and get back to what feels genuine to me and feels true. And get back to what I know is true. So I'm gonna call that it for tonight, guys. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. But I do feel better.